Greetings and welcome to another episode of Salesforce Revenue Cloud Office Hours. In this episode, I'm going to discuss Environment Hub and how we can create a revenue lifecycle management org using Environment Hub, as well as connecting an existing org to Environment Hub. This is primarily aimed at partners who have access to Environment Hub. That could be either an SI or an ISV. I found that while there is some documentation, sometimes it's easier to see and understand how things work if you can actually see a live demonstration of it. So what I will do for this is walk through a couple of articles that you can use as resources. I'll include the links to those resources in the details and description of this video, and then that will help you get your own environments spun up using Environment Hub so that you can play around with revenue lifecycle management and learn more about it. Without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and dive into that. If you have any questions about this later, feel free to reach out to me at garvinsconsulting.com. Just put your name into the form and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. From Salesforce's website, developer.salesforce.com, we see that there is an article here to create an org from the Environment Hub. Environment Hub is used for development, testing, and trial purposes. While it is oriented more towards ISV partners, you can still access this as an SI partner. I am one of those, being that Garvin's Consulting is a Salesforce partner. We're going to log into Environment Hub and then select an org. We'll choose the purpose of the org, whether I want to develop in it, use it as a test or a demo, or set up a create a Trialforce source organization. This is essentially a template that we can use to spin up additional orgs from that template. This is particularly useful for ISV partners who have some software that they're developing and they need to demo this for customers or things of that nature. It's an incredibly useful tool that saves a lot of time. In this particular case, a Trialforce org already exists for partners who are in the Salesforce Revenue Cloud space to spin up their own orgs and try things out, show things to clients and test ideas. So for this demo video, I'm going to show how to create a test org using a Trialforce template ID. This changes over time as revenue lifecycle management continues to evolve. I anticipate that new Trialforce source organizations will exist into the future. Note that you can create up to 20 member orgs per day. We're only going to create one for the purposes of this demo, and then I'm going to connect another one and show you how I do that. To begin, let's start the plates spinning for the second org. I got a developer edition org started here. This is at developer.salesforce.com/sign up. You can create your own Salesforce developer edition orgs here for free. These are different than the Trailhead Playground environments that you create when you're on Trailhead. The great thing about these orgs is they're empty. There's nothing in it. You can try things, you can break stuff. I highly encourage you to create at least one of these environments, probably several, so that you can play around with different ideas and try things out. It makes a big difference in your learning and development, especially as you're studying for Salesforce certification exams, to actually build the things in the exam. Rather than just trying to memorize a bunch of flashcards or study for the test, take the time to learn these things. I recently lost almost all of my Salesforce certifications because I let them expire because I was busy running two businesses and life got away from me. You know, it happens. Alas, I am fallible, but I am confident that I can go and take these exams again and pass without any issue because I've been doing this a long time. I know what I'm doing and I'll be able to pass them a second time without a problem. Thus reinstating or reactivating my partner status. Whoops. So note to self, if you're a solo shop and your certifications expire and you're a Salesforce partner, you will be deactivated if you don't keep your certifications up. Shame on me for doing that. I should have known better, but you know, we all make mistakes. That's part of life. Learn from it and move on. For my Salesforce Developer Edition org, I've got my first name, last name, my email address, john.garvins@garvinsconsulting.com. Feel free to reach out to me there or through my website, garvinsconsulting.com. It's your standard Salesforce web to lead form. Goes right into Salesforce. I'll be able to follow up with you. Fill out my form, my role, and then the company name. I'm calling this Environment Hub Inc. for the purposes of this demo. I give this a country, state, my zip code, a username, which remember, a username is like an email address. It's in a similar structure, but it is not an email address, and it must be unique across the Salesforce ecosystem. You can read more information about that here. Once you agree to the services agreements, you can sign me up. Beep, boop, processing. And while that is processing, I'm going to continue on my merry way going through these articles. That will take a little bit, and I'll get an email confirmation once that's done so that I can log into that org and do what I need to do. Connect that new developer environment to my environment hub. Now, in this article, we've talked a little bit about Environment Hub and what it is. I'll get into the second article of connecting an org to an Environment Hub in just a little bit once that new org is created. But I do have a couple of examples of orgs that have already been created, and I'll talk you through those now. Moving into my org, this is my actual Salesforce org. I have my various organizations here on the left. Once I get into once I log into my Salesforce org and go to Environment Hub, which is an app in the waffle. If you click this, you'll find your Environment Hub in your app launcher. I'll see my description, my organization, whether or not single sign-on is enabled, what status the org is in, the edition of Salesforce it has, and the instance of Salesforce it is on. There are org IDs assigned to these as well, but I have removed that from my list view here to obfuscate that data and keep it more private. But as you can see, I've created multiple environments using Environment Hub that I use for various purposes. For the purpose of this demo, I'm going to focus on this Revenue Lifecycle Management Inc. org, which is the most recent org that I have created. It comes pre-configured with my Trialforce template that has been used to create the org. It has pre-configured bundles and pricing procedures and all sorts of other stuff is already in this org. Its intent is to give demos and show how this thing works and try things out for yourself. To create one of these Trialforce orgs is a fairly simple process if you are a partner and you have access to Environment Hub. The way this works is I create an org from Environment Hub. How will I use this org? I needed to tell whether this is going to be for development, for a test or a demo, or a Trialforce source organization. In this case, I'm going to use this for a test or demo, and I want to use a Trialforce template ID. At this point, I will copy and paste my Trialforce ID. I'll give the org a name. I'll assign a domain. From there, I will give my first name, last name, and a username. In this case, I'll use environmenthubinc2.com as my username. And here, just for the sake of it, I'll do everything in lowercase because that's usually what I see. Not like it matters. I don't think it matters at all, but that's what I'll do. I've read the master subscription agreement. And at this point, I'm ready to create my org. I need to make sure everything is unique. I'm using the correct Trialforce template ID. All these fields are populated, and then I create. At this point, a similar process has been started, very much like our developer edition setup. I'll check my email to verify my account. I'll do that in just a second. And then, as we can see here, my environment has been submitted. This will create and automatically map to my environment hub once this is done. I'll still receive an email at the completion of this so that I can log into that org and start using it for my purposes. Checking in on my email now, I see that I have received my email, my welcome to my developer org email. I'll click on that link to verify my account. I'll sign a password. I'm keeping this in another screen right now just for the sake of privacy. Change my password. And at this point, I am logged in to my brand new developer org. Here it is. Now that I've assigned my password and all of this, I've created this org and it's ready to go. And what I can show you here in a minute is that exactly what I described, where certain things have already been pre-configured for me. We can start with the revenue settings. Once my password is changed, I can log into my org where I'm taken to the setup. And from the setup, we can now start to validate that I have what I need to do my demos of revenue lifecycle management. Let's first check the user. For revenue lifecycle management, I know that I need to assign permission set licenses to my user. We start to scroll through and see that we have a number of different licenses available for different products. Now that I have reset my password for my newly created developer org, I can take a look around and see what I have. As I mentioned, not a lot has been done with this org. It's brand new. There's not really anything in it. And we can show that by going to our sales app and taking a quick look around. I'll notice that on my accounts, I have a couple of standardized accounts, nothing too exciting here. For opportunities, we have several opportunities. But if I start looking for other items in the system, we notice there's nothing there. And again, this is the standard developer org that you can get for free. If I look at my installed packages, there's not a lot for installed packages either. In fact, we have nothing. This is a brand new org, nothing's been in it. And this is a great thing because if you want practice installing Salesforce CPQ or Salesforce billing, or you want to try other packages, you want to put your own packages in here, whatever it is that you want to do, this is a clean org to do that in. Now, I have created this org and that is a very helpful thing, but wouldn't it be great if I could have this org? Come on, app launcher, let's go. Come on. Gotta love lightning. Anyway, now that I have this created, I want to go back to my environment hub and connect it. We also see here that my other org that I just created using the Trialforce ID has been created already. And now I just need to log in and confirm that. But first, let's connect the developer org that I just created to my environment hub. The way I'm going to do this is to connect an org. I get my username. And if you remember, I can go to my settings. From here, I'll grab my username. I'll copy that, paste it in here. And for a description, I'll just use my username as well. And say, this org was created for an environment hub demo. The username is this. We can enable this for SSO if we want. I don't particularly care for that right now. And then I connect my org. Now, once this org connection starts, I will see in another window that I get a pop-up to log into this org. I have to confirm this. To finish my setup, I type in my password in the pop-up that I see elsewhere on my screen. Click log in. Or am I sure that I want to give Hub access to the URL service and APIs and things? I will allow. Now the pop-up is done and my environment should be connected. There it is. So this org was created for the Environment Hub demo. The username is this. And the best part of all of that is that if I'm logged out of my org, I can very easily log in from Environment Hub. Close this out. I'm logged out of this environment and I can easily log in by going to the drop-down arrow over here on the right, click login. That takes me to my URL. At this point, LastPass should have saved my password. Environment Hub. Okay, it's going to be annoying. Whatever. I'll just paste it myself. LastPass has been annoying lately, but what else is new? Log in. And there we are. I've logged into my environment using Environment Hub. It's just a way to better track which environments you have, where they are, and so on. Now, let's log out of this environment and log into my brand new RLM org that was created using the Trialforce template. Here's the org in question. We see that this was created recently. We know which expiration date it has, the description here. This environment, let's see here. This org was created with a revenue lifecycle management Trialforce Org. Save. And we can log in from here as well. I log in. I have not yet confirmed this org though, so I need to log into that first, which I will do now. After changing my password and logging into the org, we now see that I'm in the Smart Bytes org for revenue lifecycle management, and this is where all of the magic happens. And we can see that from the sidebar from this app launcher, I have access to a number of different applications related to revenue lifecycle management. For example, I have my product catalog management app. Product catalog management app helps us configure our products. We've got catalogs, products, classifications, selling models, configuration flows, attributes, and so on. We have our pricing management. Price management app is over here as well. This includes our price books, our pricing procedures, products, and price adjustment schedules. And from here, you can drill into these apps even more to see, well, what pricing procedures do I have? We can look for our pricing procedures. We could determine which pricing procedures are active, which ones are used, etc. The way we would do that is specifically, because these both look the same, you can start to understand, well, how are these used? Go into my custom price procedure. I look at the version for this pricing procedure. This is going to open up the flow, and this is the latest and greatest in RLM. This is what the pricing procedure looks like. It's very similar to flow. It functions similarly in that we have inputs and outputs and variables that we're capturing to determine what our prices are. And we build out what is effectively our own price waterfall. Fear not, though, I know this is a lot of stuff here, but there are standard templates that you can use as a starting point for your pricing procedures and things like this. To know if you have multiple pricing procedures in place, you can start to understand the configuration of your org by going into the setup. From the setup, I can look for the various applications related to revenue lifecycle management, starting with the highest, the uppermost of these, our revenue settings. Revenue settings is the broadest category of settings. This is where we enable our new order save behaviors. This is what we need to do to even enable RLM. From there, we can enable it. Once enabled, revenue lifecycle management cannot be disabled. Be very mindful of that. Turn it on, you cannot turn it off. Quote order pricing configurator settings. This gets into setting up quotes for RLM. We can estimate taxes, set up orders. We have several flows for managing assets or for creating contracts from quotes that are created for us. There are some values in here and flows that exist to help us manage our assets, to help us create contracts from quotes, and so on. But we have the choice if we want to customize that. You may choose to create a new version of the flow, add additional elements to it if we have other pieces of our business process that we need to incorporate into the management of assets, the creating of contracts, and so on. This is also where we set up our Salesforce pricing. We create our pricing procedures, turn on all these other bells and whistles that are in RLM. That will be for another call, but these values will be populated for you when you create your Trialforce org. Similarly, we go to pricing settings. Pricing settings has a similar look and feel to it. We have Salesforce pricing enabled. And if I look at the pricing setup, I will see that we have pricing recipes. I got a pricing procedure down here. This is where we synchronize our pricing data to update it if we've made changes to the administrative components of Salesforce pricing. We can also enable our price waterfall and turn on persistence, which will help improve the performance of the product. Another area that we need to enable to even set up and configure products is our discovery settings. So product discovery settings required for the product discovery experience. This is where we enable various context definitions for browsing products. We enable pricing procedures, qualification procedures as well that start to incorporate our various business rules. There's a lot here. There are several people throughout the Salesforce ecosystem now that are starting to create content around revenue lifecycle management, and be on the lookout because you'll see a lot of content coming out soon. I imagine at some point, Salesforce will put out some of its own training content. You can look on Trailhead, start looking specifically for the business rules engine and context definitions, anything related to the Velocity acquisition, because really, this is not a new version of SteelBrick, the CPQ tool that I'm most known for and familiar with. This is for the new CPQ revenue lifecycle management, which is now like Revenue Cloud. This is the new direction. And whether you love it or hate it, doesn't matter. This is where the world is going. Now, there are a lot of customers of Salesforce that already have Salesforce CPQ and Salesforce billing. That is not going to go away overnight. These business processes are large, they are complex, they are difficult to implement, and there's no easy button here. Despite what some architects, and I use that word lightly given how delusionally optimistic they are about things so far and how they sound like a Salesforce slide deck pitching a product like it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Okay, it may be eventually, but it's still very much in toddler stage. I see a lot of possibilities here. I see a lot of bright future, but remember, this is new software. New software is not without issues. It was the same when we went from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95. It was the same when we went from, classic to lightning. All new software has issues. And yeah, it's frustrating, but we get over it, we move on. I will say this, I've seen more investment from Salesforce into revenue lifecycle management than I ever saw in Salesforce CPQ. And really, I could see that before long, it's going to surpass Salesforce billing as well. Salesforce revenue lifecycle management is the future, like it or not. And remember, the tools change over time. That's just how the world works. We used to use horses. We don't use horses. We used to not fly. Now we have airplanes. Technology changes. It always evolves. We need to evolve with it. It doesn't mean that you have to be all starry-eyed about any new technology that comes out. I publicly make fun of AI quite a bit because it's not there yet. It's a toddler. It's stumbling when it walks. It's drooling on itself. It wets the bed. It messes in its pants. Like, it's an immature thing so far. Does that mean that AI will always be immature? Does that mean it's not helpful? No, absolutely not. There's a bright future for AI. There's a bright future for revenue lifecycle management. There's a bright future for a lot of this stuff, but we have to be patient. Not everything in the world can be delivered in a 2-week sprint. We need to remember that. And anyone who's worked on a project should know that. None of this is easy. None of this is simple. Will it become easier? Yes. Will it become simpler? Yes. But for now, it's difficult. It's complicated. And it's going to remain that way, even if it becomes super easy to create the technology, to implement the technology, because at the end of the day, we have to get a group of humans to agree on how to run a business. Unless you're a company of one, like myself, at least at the time of this video creation, that is a really hard thing to do. And even though it is just me at Garvin's Consulting right now, it's still difficult to make decisions. I still drag ass, and I'm just one person. So be patient with yourselves, as you're learning. Be patient with your clients because they have a lot of complicated decisions to make. Be patient if you're on the client side, if you're a Salesforce customer. This stuff does not roll out overnight. It's going to take work. There is no easy button. That's probably the biggest takeaway. There's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot to learn. There is no easy button. So be patient, take your time, learn this as well as you can, because you can learn this. Has it been frustrating for me to start to learn revenue lifecycle management? Yes. It's the same as it would be if I was trying to learn Mandarin right now. I don't speak Mandarin. I don't speak Hindi. I can barely speak any German. So I can order a beer and ask for the bathroom, which is really all you need. Learning a new language is difficult. RLM is a new language, but it conveys the same principles as CPQ and billing. I'm selling stuff and I'm getting money. That doesn't change. It doesn't change that I sell multiple products together. It doesn't change that there are relationships between quantities and pricing between one product and another. It doesn't change that I need to generate orders to send downstream to external system. It doesn't change that I need to create contracts and subscriptions and asset records to keep track of what my customers have purchased over time, to log cases against broken assets that have happened in the course of a customer owning one of our products. Those principles don't change. And this is where I keep coming back to principles-based thinking. Stop worrying about if it's CPQ or billing or RLM or subscription management, which near as I can tell, it's end of sale, it's going away, and those customers will eventually move over to RLM. Stop obsessing about the tools. Tools come and go, and eventually something will replace RLM. That'll probably be a decade from now. Before SteelBrick, there was Oracle CPQ, and I'm pretty sure that people were not happy about that. Grumble, grumble, grumble. I'm an Oracle CPQ guy, and now you're telling me I got to be a SteelBrick CPQ guy? Yeah, that's what we're saying. That's where the future is going. That's where the puck is going, skating that direction. And the same thing is happening again 10 years later. Look at that. Like clockwork, new thing replaces old thing 10 years later in technology. Mind blowing. How any of us are surprised by this is beyond me. But there is still a need for the legacy skill set. There is a need for the new skill set. There is a need for people who can bridge the gap. And if you're one of those people who can bridge the gap, like myself and many of my friends who have done a boatload of CPQ and billing work over the years, we're going to start doing revenue lifecycle management work over the years. That's just how it's going to be. And for a while, there's going to be an overlap where we have some CPQ and some billing. That's just how it's going to be. So if we can accept that that is the truth, that this is the direction we're going, that that's okay. You can learn this too. You learned the old thing. That was difficult and complicated. You can learn the new thing. That's difficult and complicated. And as an added benefit, learning new things strengthens your brain and helps prevent dementia. So at the very least, the advent of revenue lifecycle management will help you have a healthier brain. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. And learning new things makes our brain strong. So just roll with it, man. Just roll with it, folks. This ain't the end of the world. And it's perhaps the start of a whole new world. Cue the Aladdin music. But it's like my dad always says, nothing is ever as good or as bad as it seems. Is revenue lifecycle management as good as it seems? No. But is it as bad as it seems? No. It's probably somewhere in the middle. And it's going to continue moving towards the positive side. Like anything. You wouldn't live in a house in the first week that it started getting built, would you? No. It's a foundation and a frame. That's it. And eventually you get some walls. But you still wouldn't want to live there in the wintertime because there's no insulation. This is just like building a house. Revenue lifecycle management, it has a foundation. It has some framing. It has maybe a couple of walls are up, which as an aside, I built houses after my senior year of high school. One of the most fulfilling jobs I've ever had. This is where we build digital structures. And revenue lifecycle management is no different. It is a digital structure that is being created and eventually will be something really big and awesome. but it takes a while. You don't just create Salesforce Tower overnight. The same thing is true of revenue lifecycle management. So everybody, myself included, should be supportive of that, understanding of that, patient with that, etc. This too shall pass. It'll get easier to build stuff. Training content will become more and more available, and more resources will be available to help you learn this too. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that for now. That was how to create a revenue lifecycle management org in Environment Hub if you're an SI or ISV partner. If you're not, then your best bet to try to get your hands on RLM related stuff is to go to Trailhead and start learning Business Rules Engine, learning about these various functions, learning about Omni Studio. Those sorts of things are going to be beneficial for you to learn revenue lifecycle management. I myself need to do some of those modules too, because this is new for me too, folks. There are no revenue lifecycle management experts out there. All of us are new. The product was generally available in February of 2024. Yeah, I think it was February of 2024. It's generally available, which means we are all within the first year of this thing. It's literally impossible to have 10 years of experience with this product because it hasn't existed for 10 years. So that also should give some of us hope. Like if you were trying to get into CPQ and billing before, at this point, I'd almost say hold off, learn revenue lifecycle management. There's going to be a giant demand for that talent over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. So the same way that many of us rode the wave of CPQ and came up on that, myself included, man, if it wasn't for CPQ, I wouldn't have the career that I have. So this would be the time. If you are new to revenue operations, you're new to quote to cash, new to product to cash is what they're talking about now. That's the language that's being used more now, product to cash. If you're new to this, fuck it. If you want to learn CPQ and billing, fine. There's still going to be work out there for that. But if you don't have any conception of this, learn the new thing and follow people who have been down this path and focus more on the principles. Again, principles-based learning. What is the principle here? What am I trying to do? What is the function? Why does this function exist? Understanding those elements is going to go way further than trying to do endless modules on Trailhead. At this point, I'm getting a little preachy, but those are the main takeaways I want you to get from this. Number one, you can spin up various environments. If you want a RLM environment, you need to do that through Environment Hub. I'm sure that will change eventually, and eventually you'll be able to get access to this, but primarily it's for partners at the time being. Or I have had some clients who are doing proofs of concept to see if revenue lifecycle management works for them. And that's another way to get it. So you could talk to your Salesforce account executive about potentially doing a proof of concept. Feel free to reach out to me at john.garvins@garvinsconsulting.com or through my website, garvinsconsulting.com. If you're interested in a proof of concept for revenue lifecycle management, I would be happy to talk to you about that and help you navigate through that decision. It's a big decision. It's an expensive decision. Is it right for you and your business? Is CPQ and billing right? Is revenue lifecycle management right? Depends on you and your business and where you are in your maturity level and what your needs are. But if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me and I will do my best to answer them for you or at least point you in the right direction. Until next time,